Welcome in, welcome in. We're back for another RMAC weekly. Talk some RMAC football, some D2 football. Super excited. You excited? How
I'm
you feeling tonight?
I'm super excited, man. Another week that we get the chance to do something that we love, and not as big as
Mhm.
games we want to talk about this week, but man, it's still a chance to talk about the RMAC and talk about some football, our favorite thing, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Well, let's just jump right into it. You know what I mean? Let's look at the new top 25 that came out this week following the results. The big thing that sticks out there, obviously, Pueblo was at number six. Now Western's at six. Pueblo back at 13 after falling to number 22, Fort Hayes. Wow. It got changes already. Look at UTPB already up to 10. Remember before the season we were talking about them, big changes. What's your take on this? Mine's jumping into the fold there at 24. We got a lot of RMAC action happening in the top 25.
Yeah, we're finally seeing some of them guys move around. We're seeing the top 25 just move around in general. Some of the games we saw this week, I don't think some of these teams are as high as they are. I don't see some of these teams being as low as they are, and that's kind of the best thing. We're only now technically going into week two. Got some more opportunities coming up to kind of keep moving this thing around. I'm impressed to see the three right now. I want to see more than three. Hopefully here soon we'll see a fourth one jump in.
You know what's something cool that I just thought about looking at this? Through 2 weeks now, our conference has already played. Let me count: GV, UTPB, Fort Hayes, Central Mizzou. We've already played four. We've already encountered four teams in the top 25 here in the conference. Just our teams matching up with them, getting to see them up close and personal. So it's just cool. It's cool being able to see these teams and having experienced them and see them in person and seeing how it unfolds and changes from week to week. But like we said, Pueblo took that drop, and that was due to losing last Thursday night down in Pueblo. We got some highlights from the news station. I will admit they are going to be a little Pueblo centric. It's the local news station. Reggie Retzlaff there getting things started with a quick touchdown. You know how lethal he is down in the red zone. Almost just got to throw it up to the guy. Um, we would see Russell Patton, the running game. Early on, Pueblo, before this, Hayes had went down and scored, but Pueblo, they were answering and they were kind of leading the pace of the game. You're going to see, I think the real turning point of this game, it's going to come on a special teams play. Not this one here. This one here is a big one that may have ramifications for later in the season. You see the hip drop tackle there. Reggie, he tried to play a couple more drives after this, but ultimately ended up leaving the game and didn't come back. Hopefully he's healthy. They're going to need him. But this is the play I'm talking about. I think this is the play that really changed the game. This is right before half. Instead of kicking the field goal, they go, they run the fake, and they score a touchdown. I think that one was like a punch in the gut that Pueblo really didn't recover from. Roman Fuller, he kept doing his thing. He didn't have any turnover. He was balling, showing off the legs here, something he usually doesn't do. But the highlights aren't going to show you the actual results of this game, and the actual result of this game ends up Fort Hayes. They storm back and they win this game in regulation. There was a rain delay. So Fort Hayes, they score the ball with about like a minute, under 2 minutes left. Pueblo, they get the ball back, but there's a rain delay. After the rain delay, Pueblo comes out, drives down the field. Marcellus Honey catches a touchdown pass from Roman Fuller with about 30, 36, 37 seconds to go. On the ensuing extra point to tie it, it gets blocked and they lose. They tried an onside kick, wasn't recovered. What are your big takeaways from this loss? This wasn't a game that Pueblo was supposed to lose, being the number 6 team in the nation and playing on their home field. What was your takeaway?
Definitely, kind of like you said, something you're not looking into. But I mean, the biggest we were kind of talking about this, but I mean, the biggest aspect and the biggest part of football to me is special teams. Like that's where the most yards in the game are being passed, either on kickoff to a punt, to the field goal unit, right? And there were bigger plays made in the special teams that kept one team in the game or made a difference for the other team. And that's really what it came down to, is the minor detail, the little details in the game of the special teams that weren't being fully taken advantage of. I don't know how many times you've played a game where it comes out in a rain delay, but it's hard. You get juiced up, you're ready to play, you come out, you're tight. You know, the weather's now changed. It's cold. The field's slick. It makes a difference. It makes an impact on the game. So you kind of think like maybe that PAT at the end, you know, there's something different with the process of how it's done. The full operation wasn't fully as smooth as what it's used to. You know, it looked like the ball was a little low when it was kicked.
I think
And
the
that,
ball was low. I
yeah,
don't know that I no no like credit to Fort Hayes for sure for blocking it, but I don't know that they necessarily broke through and just exposed something in the operations. I think it was a really low kick, to be honest with you. Like
yeah,
being there and in person, I think it was a really, really low kick. Um, but yeah, like credit to Fort Hayes just showing that, just mental fortitude to just keep storming back, fighting blow for blow. Like if you look at the scoreboard, every time Pueblo seemed like they were inching ahead, Fort Hayes just kept at it, kept at it, kept at it, and really, I was really impressed. As everybody knows that follows and is in the D2 space, me and JD, I'm always giving him crap and trying to say that the RMAC is better than he thinks, and he's always telling me that the MIAA is king. And that was my first time really seeing an MIAA team up close and in person, and I came away very impressed. I'm not gonna lie. Just yeah, like their coach calling, just having the gall to call that fake in that moment, and could have possibly missed out on points if it goes wrong, if it goes the other way. Like I don't know, that it took a lot of guts to do that. It was an impressive showing. And Pueblo, how do you think, how do they rebound from a loss like this? Like you played at Pueblo, you were a ranked team. I can remember in 2016 you guys lost that initial opener to Mons. How did you guys, like, what was the thought process moving forward after that?
oddly enough, that was also a rain delay game. We came out, played the first couple of plays, and then we went into a rain delay. And I mean, when you go into half, like the focus has to be there, right? Like you can't get on your phone. And I'm not saying there was. I don't know if there was anybody. Like you can't get on your phone. You got to stay focused. And the refocusing, I think, is kind of just you got to lean on the players that are gonna be there every time. And if what's I just totally blanked out his name. If Reggie is truly out for this next game, who's going to be that guy that steps up? Or, if he is there, hey, you've got Reggie back. Let's get back into business, right? Because it was obviously they missed him pretty hard. But if he's not, who's going to be that guy to step up and who's going to be able to carry that load? Who's going to be that main target to open up your middle guys? I thought it was cool to see my boy Cookie get some opportunities. He's a little
Mm-hmm.
speedster, but at the same time, you got his twin in Zach Rakowski that is just like him. Like those are two guys, get some meshes going, free up the middle of the field, and then maybe got Honeycutt more on the open edges. Also opens up your run game for Patton to kind of get free, and it gives Roman a little bit more confidence, and settling down that he's still got his playmakers out there. He can make any play happen. The hardest thing that just looking just right here on the stats, the third quarter, you got to be able to win when you come out on the after half. You got to put points up. I know neither team did, which means it was a defensive game in that third quarter. But like that's not Pueblo. Pueblo is used to scoring. You see points all quarters. So if Pueblo wants to be back and they want to prove that hey we're back to it, you can't put a zero in the third, especially in one of the biggest quarters in the game. I think they're going to be all right, though. They've got an opportunity. They play another out of conference, kind of get themselves reseeded in a regional type of thing. But the biggest thing is they're not. The loss doesn't hurt them in the RMAC. They still have the RMAC championship within sights. They can keep playing. You go win all the rest of the games in the RMAC. You're RMAC champs, and like we said in the playoffs, it's going to be automatic bidding for them. So it's like they have the opportunity there, but you got to be able to bounce back, especially on a game where it's distasteful. You're talking about the loss to Mines, but my biggest loss was when we lost to Fort Lewis. Like how did we come back? Wasn't a game that we thought we were going to lose.
Mm-hmm.
They came out, smacked us in the mouth, and it kind of just reset us to, hey, if we don't come out and play football how we should play football, we're not going to be playing football long.
Mm-hmm. Well, before we leave the game, I just want to give a couple shout outs to Kel Cormani. He's a Colorado kid from Colorado Springs. He had himself a day catching a touchdown pass and a big 2-point conversion. And then Caleb Heavner, their quarterback, took a lot of hits. Both of these quarterbacks in this game, I think, played extremely well. Roman Fuller, even in the loss, was very impressive to me. So, um, moving along, Western went down and handled business, to say the least. Did their thing defensively, got after the quarterback. Drew Nash did Drew Nash things like he always does. Like you say, Drew Nash is the president. The president was very presidential down in Texas this weekend. And then Ricky Freeman, I'm really sad that I don't have any video highlights. But if anybody is on here and wants to go back, watch the game. Ricky Freeman has a one-handed interception on the line. Like, quarterback throws, Ricky's being blocked, like hands on his chest, just jumps up, one-hands it. Like, it's amazing. The dude's a freak. Take the time, go back, watch that. But overall, Western, another impressive showing once again, coming out 21 points in the first quarter. They came out focused and handled business.
Yeah, I completely agree. And like we said, Drew Nash did Drew Nash things. Him being in the red zone, the fact that you can lean on his legs. I think he had 2, if I'm correct, rushing. And I mean, he looked unstoppable. He ran through somebody, ran through double contact on one of them. I mean, when you got a guy like that in the red zone, you don't need to worry about throwing touchdowns every time, right? And kind of like you said, I mean, the defense was flying around. It's awesome when you see 10 white jerseys to every ball. It's even better when you see the 11th. I think on one drive they had a sack to a sack to a sack, which, I mean, that's killer when you're on the opposite opponent side, man. You're just looking out there and you're like, damn, they're crushing us, right? But I'm excited to keep watching them play. They took a good long trip down there and handled business like they should. I don't really have much to say about Midwestern as much. They're a team that's kind of still trying to get back in the reins. They're kind of right in the middle of the pack of the LSC. But it's good to see how they handled the business and they kept going. Shout out to the receivers that went out and made the plays for them. There were a lot of plays that it looked like the drive was going to stall, but yet the receiver came out and made a play and got them the yards, and which kept them going forward.
Yeah, like you said, Western just a long road trip, but they came out, they handled business. I'm sure they're going to enjoy this week off and get guys healthy, recovery a little bit. It's gonna be interesting to see this race between Western, Pueblo, honestly, at this point, everybody in the conference. Let me not just anoint all three. Conference play hasn't necessarily started, so hey, everybody's fair game right now. But moving along to our next game, we did happen to get some more video. I will admit this is an RMAC podcast, but there are going to be quite a few West Texas highlights. We got this from their local news station out there. Shout out to those guys. But Drew Zamar, former Western guy, having his way. West Texas, like I kind of said, gave Mines all they could handle, but Mines prevails. RJ Martinez here, he really didn't have, he didn't go as crazy through the air as he did versus Western, but he really showed off his legs. But this is what I love to see. Joseph Capra laying this ball up there for Pierce Richards. That's the Mines football I'm used to seeing. That was super impressive. Flynn Sheely ends up getting knocked out of this game. We don't know if he's going to be back or not. So the younger guys had to step up. Nick Stone had a touchdown too. But you see this Mines defense, West Texas was really giving them everything they could handle. This was a back and forth affair. We're not going to have the highlight of it, but Mines ends up winning on a safety to win the game. They win by 2 points. It was an amazing game, and we're gonna have somebody here, somebody that's prepared to break this down with us, making his return, the one and only voice of Mines, Miles Dunklin. Miles, game one for Mines, they come out in a barn burner. What'd you think watching this game, and what's your reaction to them getting the win in really close fashion?
Well, boys, first of all, good to see you. Glad to be here. And yeah, I mean, first of all, it was a fun watch. I was really impressed with RJ Martinez. I mean, no surprise, that's a guy that is a top level quarterback in Division II, and he showed it. He was very impressive. And, their offense was definitely impressive early in the game as well. Mine's had trouble on some screens early. I think it was kind of an over aggressiveness. I talked to Bob Stitt in person today. He said he was almost happy with the mistakes early. They were over pursuing in a way that he felt like was aggressive and playing with an attitude on defense. But they definitely had trouble slowing those guys down. Figured them out a lot more there in the second half. As you can see, it kind of turned into a ball control game for Colorado School of Mines. As you can see there on the graphic, Landon Walker had 30 big boy carries in that game against a physical defense. And, Landon's built to handle that type of workload at about 220 pounds. But, they really rode him, as well as Braylon Tate and the legs of Joseph Capra to kind of grind out that second half and find a way to get out of there with a win. But I was also impressed with QB1. I thought Joseph Capra looked pretty good. I think he'll only improve as he gets to play more. He's only a sophomore, and he's got all the tools, guys. I mean, he is maybe the fastest player on the entire team there at Mines. And that's, what the guys consistently say. And you'll see when he gets a chance to get out in the open, he's a difference maker. And then, defensively, they lost a lot of experience, especially in the middle of that defense.
Leadership.
Young, hungry guys coming through, and I think they're in for a big game this Saturday.
Okay. Draper, what were your takeaways from this game?
I'm going to go right there with Miles. Miles, were you there at the game? Or you
I was not.
Okay. I kind of got a little bit of pieces of it, but I was really impressed with Joseph. I thought for being a young quarterback, his eyes were always down the field when he was moving.
Yep.
That first half, the WT was just flying around. I mean, they were creating havoc. He was having to step up, step around. He was still able to make the plays, and that's something you want to see from a young guy. But like I'm going to say it because he's from my town, but I was really impressed with Brock. Man, like that kid was flying around. He had that huge hit stick.
Reckless abandon.
Yes, man. Hey, and I'll say that's that 806 mentality. We just have it down here. It's something in the wind. It just gets us going. But, my biggest concern was kind of, the fact that mine struggled so hard with WT's quarterback. I don't necessarily going to think they're going to play against a lot of teams like that in our conference that have a quarterback like that. But when you're a team looking at it and you're like, man, that quarterback was able to move around, and there were guys like their eyes weren't looking at the quarterback. It looked like the zone just kind of fell apart. But that first drive was crazy. Like kind of said, how they came out. I think they were empty every time, 5 plays in a row, 3 screens, 2 QB runs. Like it was crazy how they came up. It looked like Mines' offense playing against them, like that old fashioned, and count the box, go against it. Like me and the AC have talked about with Landon being the guy. He stood up, made the plays. That guy ran the ball, big boy ball. I mean, the very last drive, you don't keep the ball without Landon Walker, I don't think, on that final drive. But kind of like we've got to say last week with all these teams, they got to get those jitters out, right? They had 1 week already. WT's now played 2 full games going, or they had already played a game going into this Mines game. So it's good to see Mines have the small problems that they had. Like you said, the over pursuit. It was still great to see 10 guys run to the ball. Yeah, they overran it, but that's awesome to see week 1, right? You can only coach that up. And they get those jitters out of the way. Now they're going to get back to normal minds, start counting the box and start really putting up a lot more points. I really think 33 showed. But, we also saw the week before with WT and Western play, the score wasn't this close. So it kind of just, when you gauge games like this, you're like, oh man, they were right there. But again,
are you doing MMA math right now?
Yeah, kind of. I am doing a little bit MMA math, counting the rounds, counting strikes. But again, mine's a little bit discredited to it because they were without the game in week 0. So when you come in, you have the jitters like you did, and you still come out with a win. That's the best thing. You want to know. Now you just can build on that. Now you have film that you can coach on it.
Miles, what can you tell us about Flynn? Is Flynn going to be all right?
They don't have a definitive word yet. I'm definitely curious to see on Saturday. I was at the facility today. I'll say that's if that's a guy that they don't have, that's a tough guy to replace, right? There's not a lot of guys that are 6'4", 210 on the outside. They can ball like that. But they got a lot of depth at that position. So like a lot of teams, that is at least a position of depth that they can pull from. And but no question about it, right? That'd be a big loss. But he was walking around after the game the other day. So we'll see where he's at. I'm eager to see that one on Saturday. And one thing to mention about that Western game, I think part of the difference between those two teams, you can't discredit West Texas having to go play up at 8,000 feet up there and that week 0. And one thing, Tanner, to your point that I liked about that over pursuit kind of early in the game, they seem to get it fixed, right? Yeah. The next couple of drives. So that's kind of all you can ask for after a week 1 where you don't have a week 0. If you do make some early mistakes, okay, let's look at that second half. They were able to stop those same plays that were gashing them early in the game. And then, boys, another point I got to make. How about National Special Teams Player of the Week, Lucas Lesueur? I don't Blake Dowd, who, right? I mean, they just completely reloaded at that position. And Tim Flynn, our SID there at Mines, was like, yeah, we're not going to miss Dowd. And you're talking about one of the best in the country. And right away, those guys showed up. And not just him, but Preston Kyle, who's the freshman kicker who beat out the preseason all Armac.
Yeah, I was going to say, I didn't see
Matt Ike. So
those
guys can play a little bit.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, are you going to stick around with us for a little bit? Can we count on you to stick around?
Hang out
We're going to do some more games. Actually, you know what? We got some video again for this one. We got some Mesa Mavericks, my boys. Colton Mills Younger coming up with a big pass here with like 3 guys between everybody. Real hype. Mesa got the running game going in game 2. And that was the big difference between game 1 up at Central Washington. They really couldn't establish the ground game. Aiden Taylor and the boys got it going this time, though. And, Miles Newell out the backfield, showing off the receiving prowess. The Mavs, they win this one 28-7, and they kind of, they dominated. They didn't score in the first quarter. Eastern New Mexico scored first, but then the Mavs pitched shut out the rest of the game and scored 28 points, which is the kind of football they want to play. Forcing turnovers, running the ball, shortening the game. That's kind of how the Mavs want. They want to be a physical smash mouth team. And look, this is little Marvin who had hopped in the portal. He's back wearing 21 now. Look at him showing off the speed. And then Aiden Taylor again, just rough and tough, stiff arm. We're getting there for a touchdown. The Mavs were hype. Seems like the vibes were good in Grand Junction last week. They get the win over Eastern New Mexico, kind of avenging the last time Eastern New Mexico came. They beat Mesa. They hold Chad Regal in check. Whereas last week versus New Mexico Highlands, he had more success passing the ball, and that was a closer game. The Mavs dominant. Liu didn't turn the ball over this week, was really efficient. Doesn't have the greatest stat line, not a ton of yards, not a ton of touchdowns, but managed the game well. And this is what the Mavs, this is how the Mavs want to play and how they want to win football games. What do you guys think?
I mean, I got to watch this game. I was kind of pretty hyped with it because the week before we were saying that it's going to come down to discipline. I thought they played all 3 of it. They had a quarterback guy, a dive guy, a pitch guy every play, and that comes down to making the plays when you do your job. But I really want to give a shout out to Miles Newell. Man, there were times where the pressure was coming up on a pass. He stepped up, took that block. I mean, he made some, I think there was 3 plays where he's peeling somewhere, peeled backside, got the guy that was late blitz, and then he gets the reward from the football gods to get that, wheel for the touchdown. The run game, when you're alive like that, it doesn't matter if you throw the ball because you can just hand it off to one of those 3 guys, then they're going to make a play. I'm going to mess with LB a little bit. He had a chance to go back-to-back weeks on a pick. I don't know what happened with the hands. Looked like he tried to catch it backwards. I don't know, LB, but we got to fix that, buddy. 10 tackles from a corner. That's incredible. That means you're playing your key, and then when they came on the outside, you're making
plays.
But I really was impressed. This was the Mesa team that we talked about coming into the season, that they would they'd be able to do what they're doing as long as that run game's there. The O-line, they stood up, they made the plays, they got down the yard or down the field. They weren't getting pushed back. They didn't have the penalties like they had in week 1, which is the biggest thing going from week 0 to week 1. You want to see improvement, right? Well, they didn't have negative yards in rushing because the offense didn't get negative, penalties. So I was pretty impressed. Again, I'm going to say it. They played Eastern New Mexico. I don't know where they sit in the LSC. But when you can play that dominant against a team that wants to run the ball that many times against you, you're going to do good things.
Did you get to catch this one?
Yeah, sure did.
Or any of it?
Yeah, it was great to be able to see. I think Mesa just established their identity. Like you said, this is the team they want to be, but had to get one of those before you go into Pueblo next week and kind of know who we are. This is how we're going to play. Quarterback only had to throw the ball 14 times, so that's a recipe for success. So I think he can air it out more than that. But when you can get Aiden Taylor going, got to meet him at media day, and that's a strong kid right there. That's a D1 body there at running back. And so when he can get going downhill and get 20 carries a game, this is the Mesa team that can be dangerous, and with this type of recipe can come in and beat the top teams in the league. So yeah, it was good to see them come out and play their game and do exactly what they need to do to win.
I want to give a shout out to George too. I think a big thing for me heading into the season was I was really concerned with the loss of Charlie Smith after he had 97 tackles and was super productive last year. Looks like they're replacing him just fine. Shout out to the Mesa defense. That's big time performance against an offense like that. Like you said, Tanner, really disciplined effort on the part of the Mavericks this week. So we love to see that. I wish I had highlights from this game because, even in defeat, I love what I saw from Black Hills. They really went toe to toe with Grand Valley in their house, which is one of, probably the craziest D2 game environments you can be in. They went right down there and went toe to toe with them. They ultimately end up coming out on the losing end. But I think once again, Miles, it was me and you doing this show last year, and I think you can remember and attest to this. I used to always talk about Luke Doobie and how much potential I thought he had, but he didn't always necessarily play to that. This season, though, oh man, he's playing to that potential and surpassing it. Like back-to-back games over 300 yards passing. He has the one INT here, but 4 TDs. TJ Chukwara, coming back with a vengeance. I tweeted out that he's making a claim for top wideout in the RMAC, and I think he is. 6 touchdowns through 2 games, 3 in Grand Valley. I was really impressed with them. They obviously come out on the losing end. If I had to point to one thing as to why, I'd say the lack of a running game. Black Hills hasn't been able to run the ball through the first 2 weeks, and I think that's proved dire as far as the win calling for them. But what do you guys think about this game and what Black Hills is able to do up there?
Let Miles go first.
I think it's a really impressive showing. I'm not surprised. I love what Coach Bresky has built there. The consistent improvement, the way they've been able to retain their kids, the way they've been able to retain their staff, and move forward in the right direction. I think this is you hate to say a moral victory, but this is about as close as it gets, right? To be able to see your team go compete against Grand Valley State, where a few years ago Black Hills State was not competing with Grand Valley, and love to see. I mean, that's a team that's got to have their stars play. So Collier balling out. It's great to see TJ Chukwara, who, is probably right there. One of the most talented receivers in the league. And you got to know that Grand Valley State's coming into that game saying, hey, we got to make sure that's a kid that doesn't beat us. And he goes for 12, 180 and 3 touchdowns. So that's pretty darn impressive. And I think if you're Luke Doobie, you got to leave that game with a lot of confidence. And that's a dangerous thing for a team like this that is good enough, right, to come in and knock off those teams and maybe be one of those teams. I don't think 0-2 is indicative of just how competitive they're going to be. And they're going to beat one of these good teams in the league for sure.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of build off that. I mean, when you look at the first quarter, they were up against the number 5 team. And actually, I think they were like number 7 as of last week's poll, somewhere around there. But I mean, like, when they came out in that first quarter, I was like, dang, they were flying around. They were making plays. It didn't look like at all they felt like they were the underdog. They looked like they deserved to be a part of the game. Special teams, they had the long kick return for a touchdown that kind of gave them a little bit more momentum. Like we've been saying, Luke Doobie balled out. I mean, that guy took some hits throughout the game. I mean, he got destroyed on one of the D tackle, came off of a stunt, just free, got destroyed, got back up, threw the next bomb. Like, I mean, they were making plays. TJ at the very end of the fourth quarter looked like he was walking around 2 casts on his feet, just limping. I mean, he was beat up, still trying to give that effort, right? That's Black Hills mentality, man. They're just hard physical dudes up there. The whole game, though, when you just watch, there was not a time where you're like, oh, I'm going to turn this off, because every time it got like 15-point game, boom, they're right back into it. Boom, they're right back into it. And again, they were 0-1 last week going against a top 10 ranked team, and showed we deserve to probably be in the top 25 by the end of this year. I'm going to just kind of put that prediction there. That's kind of why I said that earlier. This team is very good. I mean, they're going to give a couple of, they're going to get the Pueblo, the Mines, the Mesa, the Western. They're going to give them good games, things that they haven't seen in years before. I mean, last year they were close to beating Pueblo, right? And then, little things happen here and there. I think this is a team that can probably go forward. And best thing about it, yeah, they're 0-2, but they're not 0-2 in the conference. Their conference is still 0-0. They still have a chance to do something special. I'll just shout out to the coaches out there for opening the scheme and honestly keeping the guys right. That's a terrible environment to play in. You're looking one way, like I said last week, you're looking one way, looking another, students are yelling at you. The bench is maybe a foot away from you. It's crazy. Just shout out to them. Also a shout out to Herschel Craig. He actually went in there and made some plays. Former Pueblo guy. Takes in that what the history of kind of what he was around in Pueblo of how to play football and not play football, but how to be dominant really on that side. Kind of looked like he carried it over. I mean, those guys were running around making plays, and it happens. It sucks. Somebody has to lose a game, but when you lose like this, kind of like Miles said, it's a moral victory. And I know we're not always down for a moral victory, but you got to be able to look and say, hey, we had a good shot there, and we have more shots coming up.
I think something else to point out in this game before we move on to is just if you look at the stats, even on the Lakers side, you see like their quarterback Andrew Schuster had a day too, but they didn't run the ball. When does Grand Valley not run the ball? Blackfield shut down the run truly, which is very, very impressive, and I think bodes well for them like heading into RMAC play. Like if you can just shut down the run of Grand Valley, I think that shows that your front seven is for real, and that bodes well for conference play.
Yeah, and guys as well, I want to point out like the schedule they have in the preseason here shows they are not afraid. They think they belong out there with the big dogs, and I think that's kind of embodies just what Coach Bresky is about right there. And it's about as good of a position as you can be in at 0-2 that you played really good competition. You know who you are. You're battle tested before the conference season even begins. So I love your call on this being a team that could sneak into that top 25.
Yep.
And this was my call on a team that could sneak into the top 25, and I'm still ready to proclaim this for the Cowboys. Like, did you guys see what happened this week with Jeffrey Jones? Is Jeffrey Jones the best running back in D2 already? Is that fair to say?
Without a doubt right now.
Through 2 weeks? 385 yards on the ground. NCAA freshman record. He owns that now. Highlands, they're in a barn burner of barn burners, and they come out on top. You don't like to see a team give up 55 points, but I've been on the field for games like this. You just want to win at the end of the day. And Highlands has been able to do that for 2 weeks in a row after not, for years. The last really good year for Highlands, I'd say, was probably 2021. That was quite a bit ago. I think the vibes are high. I'm super high on Highlands. I was super impressed with what I saw. You even see Tavita Valetti, the first team all-conference running back, preseason all-conference running back, get it going with 11 carries, 100 yards, 2 touchdowns. I could go on all day. I'm just loving the Cowboys and what I'm seeing, and I love that they own the state of New Mexico now.
Yeah, I kind of with you. I made that tweet, schedule the Aggies, schedule the Lobos. They're going to own the state. I mean, like what's not pictured right here is they had, I believe, 4 running backs score a touchdown in this game. That we were talking about how they have a 3-headed monster and their 4th string is out there running back kickoff returns for a touchdown. I mean, like it was a game to watch really and just be like in shock. But you really got to give a shout out to the offensive line. I mean, some of those holes that Jeffrey was running through, he didn't get touched. People. Yes, they're moving guys 5 yards down the line, pancaking them, getting up, looking for the safety after. I mean, it's a violent team down there in Highlands that they're building, and it goes on both sides. Both sides of the trenches are 2 big units right now. They're able to create that pressure. I was saying the week before I was really impressed with the quarterback from Western New Mexico with Connor Ackerley.
Oh my gosh.
He showed that I was just as impressed as him. I mean, that kid is a baller. And I mean, I know it sucks to see that he threw for 500 on you, but he didn't throw for 700 on you. Like he probably could have. It was it was pretty crazy to watch both games. You know, I did see it looked like New Mexico Highlands got a little bit excited going into half. They took a bunch of their players out, kind of rotated a bunch of guys
Took their
in.
foot off the gas a little.
Yeah, they looked like they were like kind of coasting in, and then once they let them back in, they're like, all right, throw the guys back in there. And then, you know, guys came in. It looked like a hockey line at one time. You know, all 7 guys come off, all 7 guys go back in. It was crazy. But just honestly, shout out to New Mexico Highlands. I mean, like you said, 2021, they beat me. They surprised me. I was not ready for Highlands to be that, but they've been building, you know, and shout out to coach, just kind of being able to take them and give them a new identity this is what we're going to do. And we've talked about how they have 3-headed monster back there running the ball. They might have a 4-headed monster, honestly. You know, that was kind of wild to see that the open or that kickoff, just how fast that kid was as well. But, you know, overall, like you said, you want to just win these games. They did it. They're 2-0. First time since 2011, I think they've won the New Mexico, the state. So they're on the right path, right?
Yeah, I mean, you just got to love Coach Kurt, love what he's bringing to the table. I think the identity of this team fits New Mexico well. You know, that's something that they want to embody down there. That's why they play the other New Mexico teams. And let's talk about Jeffrey Jones' catch as well, guys. Can't gloss over that. I mean,
oh yeah, that one-hander,
big time on the sideline. So he's got a lot of skills. And this is a dangerous style, right? This is an upset style of ball that they can play. And I wouldn't want to be one of the top teams in the league going to play these guys if they can get in their bag at all. You know, they are also a team. They can go in and knock off one of those top teams in the league. Shout out to my guy, Austin Turnbow, as well.
Yeah.
This guy's just, first of all, just a phenomenal kid. Coach Kurt told me, you know, this is the type of guy that is infectious, is a culture changer, is, you know, they used to be Urban Meyer talking about Tim Tebow making everybody better just by meeting him. But for real, he's one of those kids that just has this smile on his face. Spent 2 years in Guatemala on his Mormon mission, and he's a freshman, but they thought enough of him to bring him to media day. And then you see the way he's playing right out of the gate. So they got some culture changers in the program right now with some of the guys they brought in, and just a lot of fun. So a team that you don't want to see coming up on the schedule, and got to tip the cap to Coach Kurt. What he did prior, I don't know why, you know, anybody would be surprised what he's doing now that he's at Highlands as well. So that guy's just a stud. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun to watch. How about 14 yards a carry through the first 2 games for Jeffrey Jones?
Jesus Christ. 608 yards in 2 games.
He broke that record too on like 16 less carries than the original record was set at, like 40 carries, 300 and whatever yards. Like, I mean, he did it on 24. Oh my gosh.
And when you have 3 of them, you got him, Mason, and Tavita, they can all stay fresh. They're all fresh. They're not, you know, like something that we're going to have to watch, you know, throughout the season. The load for Landon, like, and what that does for him, you know, like his health, just taking all those hits, 30 carries. These guys, they can spread the love because they got 3 dudes that are all really, really, you know, top end back. So the vibes are high in Highlands, and I'm sitting pretty right now, guys. 2-0. My boys on New Mexico. You know, another team that, you know, both you guys are super high on. I was a little down on them last week. I was really, really disappointed in that showing against William Jewell. But the Skyhawks get back on the wagon in a big way, 58-10 on the road out in Arizona against the Firestorm. Noah, I'm losing his name right now. How am I losing his name right now?
Stonewall.
Stone. No Stone this week, but nonetheless, really, I think this was a super good defensive showing for the Skyhawks. But nonetheless, a dominant effort. 58 points and 58 points. It's pretty wild. And you know, they get that first win of the season. What were your guys' takeaways from this one? Did any of you guys get to actually watch this one?
It was a late game. I watched like the first half of it, and then I kind of figured it was going to be done. But the biggest thing that I saw was, man, Jacob Penny flies around. That kid goes from A to B to covering the one receiver every play. I mean, he is crazy on the field. But the fact that they came out and put up the points like they were, this was the team I was talking about last week with Stone. And, you know, I kind of also said was, you know, if Stone's down, how do you come back with it? The team came back. the team rallied back and made the plays. The defense put the offense in great positions where they didn't really have to march that far. And a few times they did. When on the on their defensive side, the quarterback only threw 51 yards. He was running for his life for half that game. I mean, like, they were just running around full violent football. Fort Lewis, if they can play like this, they're going to be a good team. Now, given, it's a hard thing to look at because they didn't play D2 to D2, but they still played a very violent football game.
Right, and I think this is what you want to see if you're a Fort Lewis fan. Obviously, is them doing it without Stone Walker having to pull a rabbit out of the hat and run around and make things happen and play good football. I'm also amazed by Jacob Penny. He's just so consistently productive. There just doesn't go a week where he's not getting 10, 12 tackles a game. And I think a lot of that comes from his preparation, his intensity. It's between the ears a lot for that kid. He's not, the biggest, fastest guy out there on the field, about 6 feet, 200 pounds, relatively unassuming out of uniform. But boy, is he a dog when he gets out there. Got a lot of help from Jordan Thomas this week, the RMAC player of the week. You see the productivity right there. So stuff in the stat sheet, and good to get back on the right side of things, get to feeling good. I think is always important. Like we were saying for Mesa, to kind of get that one under your belt where you're like, okay, this is who we can be before you get to conference play.
Yeah. I hope this is, like the real jumping off. I hope this wasn't just so dominant because it is in a IA to D2. Like, I hope whether they win or lose, I just want to see them be competitive week to week. I don't want to see, last week, I don't think they were very competitive. So you guys are up again. Skyhawk Nation, come on, man. Come on, dude. Come on with it every week to week, guys. I need week to week effort in production, and I need it to be consistent. But moving along, Saturn State, this is the first time I've seen them get scored on like this in quite a while. On the offensive end, they actually put up 21 points. Most weekends, that's probably enough for Shadron to win a football game with how their defense plays, but playing a tough MIAA foe in Nebraska Kearney, that obviously wasn't the case. 17 points in the fourth quarter. Kearney had their way in this in-state rivalry game. I couldn't watch this game. It was on the MIAA network, and I was out shooting a game. But just looking at the box score, I think Shadron, they kind of shut down Isaiah Harris, who's like a all-conference type running back, which is impressive. The stats aren't great for Kearney, but just looking at that box score, seems like they had the game in hand the whole time.
Yeah, I kind of similar. I got to listen to a little bit of audio. It looked rough from the beginning just because it looked like DJ Ralph after his injury last year. And that's the hard thing to say is, like, I was really hyped on how they played last week against UNC. That was a really good opponent that obviously should have beat a D1, but that's a side note. But like you don't see this from Shadron's defense, especially in the fourth quarter. They usually bite down and make the plays. And it looked like Kearney just had their number. There were times where, like, I'm just listening, but the announcers, they're a little bit biased there too. But I mean, it seemed like every play they were like, oh, he could go. Like, it just, that sucks when you give up the big play after the big play after the big play, especially going into the fourth quarter. I don't know about you, Miles.
Yeah, I didn't get to see this one either, so I don't have a whole lot to say, but I will put it this way. Yeah, Shadron's certainly they got their hands full with Black Hills this week, and then they got Mines after that. So kind of have to have some urgency right now for Shadron. But I think there's a lot of hope there. Exactly what you said, Tanner, that, UNC, we saw them. They got robbed. Okay, let's call it what
they
it was.
Got robbed.
Yep.
Yes.
Against Colorado State,
got
and
robbed.
they hung right there with them. So I think there's still a chance this is a pretty darn good football team if they can put everything together.
And kind of the biggest thing, like we said, they're 0-2, but not in an RMAC play, right? Like, so they still have the whole season ahead of them. They can make the plays. You show up like you did last week with a little bit of the offense this week, put the 2 film games together, get the tape fixed. The sky is truly just the limit for some of these teams, right?
You gotta hope that in there. So like Tommy Thomas goes crazy against Northern Colorado. Obviously, Carney probably came out like, "Hey, let's shut down number 4." You gotta hope in this next game, it's gonna be a battle against Black Hills for sure. You gotta hope that he has a big game and DJ Ralph and him can get it going.
How about both those teams coming in 0-2 in that one?
Yeah.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Adams, I was talking last week. I said I felt bad for him, and I felt bad because UTPB is for real. They go up into Alamosa, not even with the same quarterback that just started and starred versus UCO. Isaac Mooring is the quarterback that gets the call. I think three guys played in that game for him, but he's the one that stood out the most, had the most reps, and they handled business. Maybe not as dominant as I thought. I honestly thought the game could get even a little bit uglier than it did. So maybe shout out to Adams for not letting them score above 50 points like some of us expected. But, they take another loss. And, their freshman quarterback, he had a rough time of it. Only 12 yards through the air and an interception. You got to hope that, he's getting thrown in the fire. You got to hope that this doesn't ruin him. I feel like having a quarterback, taking losses like this, I don't know the kid personally. I don't know what he's built of, but I would just hope that, hopefully there's still some positivity going on because these are rough losses, and that's a really rough stat line. There's no way around it.
And I'm not going to say if they had Gavin Herberg, this game's going to be closer, but, there were times where, especially defensively for Adams, it looked like the guy was looking next to his teammate hoping he made the play. And again, I said that last week, you can't play defense like that. You all got to rally. And it sucks when you're out there and you're on their 23rd possession of the game. UTPB shot themselves in the foot a lot. This game could have been a lot bigger than what it was. So again, you kind of give it a little bit credit to Adams. It's not as bad as a loss as you would. I think the biggest takeaway, or the greatest thing about this game was kind of the camera work. They kind of made Coach McCullough look a little bit skinnier than he actually is. So, a little shout out to the camera work out there. Told him he'd get a little stray. He's talking a little crap to me this past week, but there's not really a lot positive you could say other than, you just got to keep, these are a lot of young guys that are playing. There are a lot of young guys playing for Adams. And, it takes getting beat pretty bad to know what you got to look like in the future. It really is what it is. And it's hard for a freshman quarterback to kind of have a stat line like that. But you know what? He played. He showed up. He's going to be able to say 4 years from now when they beat some team that, hey, I got smacked a lot, bad. And this is where we're at, right? You want to leave the ground better than what you left, or you want to leave the place that you're at better than how you found it. And I really think that could happen if this kid stays in and just kind of goes from there.
Yeah, no question these guys will improve. I'm a big fan of Coach Gallus. I think he's a really good human being first, super involved with the community, wants the kids to be involved in the community. They're going to graduate a lot of kids. They're going to retain a lot of kids. He's an Adams State guy, knows what it takes to win there, but it's going to be a process. And unfortunately, games like this are a part of that process.
Yep.
I think they should just keep trying to lean on AJ Merida. Had 134 yards on a top 10 team defense. That's something to build on, something to lean on to maybe help your quarterback, a little play action or something to maybe free things up. But rough goings for the Grizzlies this past week, and tough scenes for the Hard Rockers. This is truly the Hard Rock life, so to speak. It has been these first 2 weeks, getting shut out against Pueblo, and then on your home field in the home opener, Michigan Tech, a GLIAC team, kind of a middle-of-the-pack GLIAC team, but maybe a GLIAC team that's ready to punch up into the upper tier of the GLIAC. But they come in and they handle business. They hold Gage Baker in check. Not much to say besides, I do think, if you think back to the game last year when it was up at Michigan Tech, it was was it 2-3 overtimes, 50 points? A lot. It was a quarterback battle. And I remember breaking this down and talking about SD Mine's secondary last year and how bad I thought it was. I don't think defensively they're playing as bad as these scores would indicate. It's the offense is not doing anything and they're on the field extensively, for more than half of the game. I really don't think the defense is that bad. And I think if you look at the statistics, I think that bears it out a little bit. But just overall, this is a rough rough scene for Coach Floor. Like, this doesn't look like to be a particularly good outfit of SD Mines and the Hard Rockers this year.
Yeah, this is again, they're a team that returned 6 starters from last year. A lot of these guys are just kind of getting their first taste of college football. It, like you kind of said on the offense, it took them 7 quarters before they got their first touchdown of the year. That's tough and difficult to deal with. And again, they defensively they were put in a bunch of bad situations, anyways. But this quarterback from Michigan Tech, I mean, that we were raving about him last week. Everybody was, and I didn't truly think he had the greatest game like he had against Bemidji.
Bemidji.
Yeah. And so, that was a team last year that was in the playoffs, and he went off against them. Now you're going against South Dakota Mines. I really wasn't that impressed, So there's good takeaways to take there. Again, you get film on 2 games of what you should do. Some of these guys are getting their chances to actually play college football, and it takes experience to be good. You can't just throw 70 guys together and be good at football, or Alabama would be 2-0 this year.
Shot to be on the Crimson Tide right there, but I'm always okay with that as a hater of Bama and an SEC fan. But let's get a quick shout out to William Lester, one of the better safeties in the league. Never want your safety to have to make 10 tackles a game, but in there producing, one of the more underrated players in the league.
I think something to watch out for, on a positive note, to give the Hard Rockers a little bit of love before we get out of here with the breakdowns of last week, is that freshman receiver, Jacoby Ogbonna. Week after week, he's popping up on the stat lines. Like, I'm not saying this year is the year, but we've seen in years past, if they have a nice offensive weapon, they have a dude that they can pass the ball to, they'll pass the ball a lot to him.
Yeah.
I think he has the potential to be a budding star in the conference moving forward. So, something positive for the Hard Rockers fans to talk about. Looking forward to next week, this upcoming week. It's a light schedule before we kick off into conference play full on next week. The big one that stands out is obviously probably going to be Pueblo heading to Central Missouri. MIAA. I don't know that I want to say MIAA power. They didn't end up making the playoffs last year, but an MIAA playoff competitive kind of team, a real team. Not that dissimilar to probably Fort Hays. It's going to be interesting to see what Pueblo looks like after a really, heartbreaking loss like last week. And then we're here. Let's just get into it. Let's talk this one. If you guys had to guess, do Pueblo bounce back and win? And if so, how do they do so? What do you think, Miles?
Yeah, I would say they're poised for a bounce back. That's a really good team with a lot of really good players, veterans, outstanding veteran quarterback. I would see no reason why they wouldn't bounce back. I was surprised they had that hiccup last week. Showed they're not invincible, but are they one of the top teams in Division II? I think still absolutely. They can be that. And it'd be nice to have Reggie back in full force. Certainly, that's a type of a guy that you can't replace. But yeah, I think they'll be just fine as the year goes along, and we'll love to see them bounce back on Saturday.
Yeah,
what about you?
I agree with you. I think this is that game that you want to have. I mean, it's a team that statistically in the past they've been good. Yeah, they weren't in the playoffs last year, but they still won the bowl game, right? So they are a successful team. Your thing to lean on is going to be your pass game versus their pass defense. Like Central Missouri has been struggling with the pass defense, and Pueblo is great at the pass. So, they go out there, they put up the points that they should all 4 quarters. This game shouldn't be close. But it's going to come down to special teams. If you can't operate, and I know Miles loves special teams, but like if you can't operate on the special teams, you're hurting yourself, right? That's the biggest yards in the game, whether it's kickoffs, punts, field goals, the biggest opportunity to have flip the field. So that's where it's going to come down to, is special teams and making the plays where they happen.
Okay, I'm so torn on this. Because, and I'm probably going to upset a lot of people saying this, but I have to be honest and just speak my truth. I feel like any team that's not in the RMAC, that doesn't come in with like inherent kind of like fear of Pueblo and understands all the history of Pueblo, these teams from out of conference that come in and are not scared of them, and can punch them in the mouth can always play with him. Like, that game was eerily similar to the Mankato game to me, the way it played out and how when it got tight, I just seen the other team deal with adversity better than Pueblo. I say all that to say, like, I think Pueblo's one of the most talented teams in Division II. But I do think sometimes they've shown to be a little bit of front runners, and sometimes when they get punched in the mouth, I don't know that they have the capabilities to bounce back. I think that kind of remains to be seen just based on the games we've watched. Their last game against another power in Mankato in the playoffs, we saw how that one went. Fort Hays, who was coming off got smacked by Angela last week. To do that, I was not expecting that. I thought Pueblo would win that game by 2 scores. So maybe I'm being a prisoner of the moment. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm not. But I just want to see it. So, I do think Pueblo has the talent to do this one, to go in there and win this game. But I'm also expecting it to be close. Like, I don't think that I'm not going to pick them to go into an MIAA school and win by multiple scores. So I'm going to go with Pueblo. I'm going to roll with them again, but I do think it's going to be close. And I would love for them to surprise me. Shut me up. Shut me up, guys. I know you guys are going to clip this and probably be mad about it, but shut me up, and then I won't think like this. But I've just seen it too many times. Like, even dating back to our years, Draper. I hate to point this out, but like, every time you guys played Mankato, it was the same ball game every single time. So like, this is eras that this has been going on, that I've come to this opinion. And yeah, until you guys do it, what I believe. So yep. I'm gonna pick you guys to win, but yeah, I'm not picking it very confidently, I'll say.
Yeah, I'm with you, by the way.
Another game that, last year, this game, MIAA, this is kind of a lower tier MIAA team, gave Mines all they could handle last year in a game down in Kansas. Miles, we're going to lean on you, obviously. Where do you see this game going? It's the home opener. It's going to be I imagine, a crazy environment and crowd. I know all the people of Golden are excited to have some Ordinger football back. What do you think Washburn can come in here and give Mines a game, or do you think the boys will be dominant this weekend?
I do think the boys will be dominant. You're not going to catch me saying any not nice things about Colorado School of Mines, so we'll just put it right there. But no, I think this is going to be a game where they're going to be able to get after the quarterback. I think you've seen Washburn really struggle to run the ball, and that's not just indicative here on the stat. I mean, if you watch the game, they really struggled. They've given up, I think, 11 sacks in 2 games. Mines is due for a bunch of sacks. They technically got 0 last week because the ball went out of the back of the end zone on the game-winning safety. And they didn't get many last year. That previous to that, they were the number 1 team in the country a couple years in a row in sacking the quarterback. So I think it's coming this week. And I think the offense is gonna look sharp. I think Bob Stitt is bringing a level of intensity, of attitude, of professionalism that these guys are going to go out there and produce and execute with. By the way, how about this stat? So 25 years, almost to the day, between Bob Stitt wins to open his tenure. So the first game in the year 2000. 25 years ago, and then now here in his second tenure, getting the win last week. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, Coach Stitt really likes his team. I think Coach Watkins there at Washburn as well. He's got a great young coach. He's in his just late 30s as they're on the way up, but they have really struggled to protect the quarterback. I think Mines is going to be able to feast there. I think Joseph Capper is going to have a big game. They're going to feed off that home energy that has been so positive, such a positive winning place for them. And I do expect them to come out on Local 3 KCDO and the RMAC network on Saturday and get the job done and play well. With that being said, Washburn's got a lot of really good players. If you watch the game, by the way, they vote their captains numbers 1 through 9. Right. So if you ever see Washburn play, that's what they'll do. So if you see a guy wearing a single digit, that's one of their studs. They got a couple studs right in the middle of their defense at linebacker. They got a couple studs right there at defensive tackle. So if they can keep Landon Walker in check with a couple of those really good players, they got some good downhill aggressive safeties. The corners are good as well. So that defense is stout, but that offense has really struggled so far.
Minus 28 rushing yards.
And that's coming from both the quarterback being sacked, which is a terrible rule in college football.
Yeah.
It goes against the rushing statistics, garbage.
It shouldn't.
But they haven't been able to run the ball in the traditional sense as well. So both of those things are big problems, I think, for them going into Saturday.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's hard to play up there in Marv K. All the students yelling out trigonometry formulas at you, it confuses you and stuff. But like, I definitely got to say Colorado School Mines, this is a team that, if Flynn does not play, the way they do play football is next man up. You don't know who you're going to get. Like it could be the running back to Capria to Landon. I mean, I already said it, but Landon just making plays. I don't think this is going to be that close of a game. You already said it. I thought it all last week with what the WT. They're going to get sacks, man. That defense is flying. Yeah, they're young. They're new guys, but they don't care. They don't care what the guys did before them. They're just going out there to make the plays. I think this is going to be a game where I see Jackson Zimmer make a play. I'm going to put that out there. I want to see him have a pick six. But I know it kills me because I'm a Pueblo guy at heart, but I got Mines winning by a comfortable lead here, and it's going to be a shout out or a really big factor that they're playing at home. Last year they're playing on the road, and it was not the game that you want to play there. Now you're at home. Like I said, the students are going to be messing with you. That hard hat's going to be coming out a few times, and Mine's going to be walking away 2-0 this week.
Let me give you guys a couple of names, by the way, to watch out for if Flint Sheely's not out there. First of all, Tyson Mock is a redshirt freshman, a dude that's super tough. That will make a lot of plays. But Pierce Edwards, if you guys watched last week, Pierce Edwards turned into a dude. And I think that was a guy that they thought was going to be, a good player, but maybe didn't have the juice that they needed to be a difference maker. I think he's turned into that difference maker type of receiver. And both myself and Tim Flynn said it today, but he reminds me of a guy, a lot of Sean Odell, a guy I think you guys played against that is just tough. Quicker than he is fast, and just a football player out there. So watch out for Pierce Richards as a guy that is coming on strong. And then I like your call with my guy Jackson Zimmerman. Let's put in one for Brady Zingelman. I think we're going to get at least one
Brady.
From
Brady. He's looking buff now. He's all big in the 15 now.
He get big.
Brady.
He's got that quick twitch, pass rushing, athletic build. He's gonna make some plays.
Hey, we're getting to see Blaster run the field this week too. That's always the best thing. Huh?
Oh yeah.
He'll get his work in for sure. You guys catch myself and Josh Dover on the call on Saturday. And one more thing here while we're just on the subject of Colorado. Got to shout out the city of Evergreen, place where I work. Terrible day today to be a citizen, a member of that community, but that's a strong community. They're going to bounce back.
Amen.
Heck yeah. So we only got a couple more. SD Mines taking on Upper Iowa coming in at 0-1. SD Mines looking to get off the schneid. I don't know. I know they won this game last year, but last year they had a really good quarterback. I think they're still trying to figure that out at quarterback. Like you said, shout out to Will Lester. I think the defense is actually playing all right, but I think they still got a long way to go. And, I'm not going to act like I'm super familiar with Upper Iowa. They're a GLVC team, if I'm not mistaken.
I think
with it being on the road, give me Upper Iowa to win in a close one.
Yeah, I only know this because I actually watched this on ESPN, but they played Drake last week, which is a FCS team. I mean, the stats aren't going to give them the most credit. Again, UNC played Shadron and the game was just closer, right? I do think Upper Iowa had that disadvantages last week, but I don't see it being this close. I don't see Mines winning this, or South Dakota Mines winning this game, only because we're seeing an offense struggle and not be able to find their identity. And when you have 4.5 points scoring in 2 games, that is rough. I mean, their kicking isn't just as great either. I mean, we've seen them miss field goals on opportunities. Last week they had the chance. 2 weeks ago they had the chance. Their defense has given up a lot. I think Upper Iowa's going to take this, and it's going to be by at least 14.
I don't have anything to add. I think you said it well. SD Mine's still trying to find out who they are, and a lot of work to do there. And I think a team that's better than what those stats show on the right there for Upper Iowa, plus the home team.
A
Yeah.
hell of a logo matchup. The Hard Rockers versus
Good
the
call.
Peacock.
That
Yeah.
peacock goes hard. That's a pretty
That-
sweet.
Their
Hey, they
jerseys are
are the
sick
hard.
too.
Their jerseys are
I
fire.
guess as long as we're on the subject, I mean, that's a pretty cool mascot as well, the Ichabods. They're
Oh
from
yeah.
Washburn.
Oh
So
yeah. Oh yeah.
pretty
I
cool.
remember what was I saying? How was I saying it last year?
I think you said Hickerbach or something like that.
Nah. I think I was saying Ichabods. I think I
Oh
said
no,
like
yeah.
Ichabods.
Each bonds, yeah. This was a team that was really good back in the past, though. Upper Iowa used to be a good team.
And then this is the big one. I'm losing it. What's the name, Tanner? I know you know the name of it.
I already forgot
Battle.
to, man. CT. But hey, it's a big rivalry game. They're like 116 miles apart.
It's the battle of some. We didn't know this.
Somebody in our group or somebody in the chat will throw it up and we'll be like, there it is. But I mean, they're only like 116 miles apart. This is like a brawl of a game. This game means something. And kind of like we've said, these are two 0-2 teams that are willing to show something out, dude.
Well, I mean, okay, just looking at this game, I'm picking Black Hills, dude. Doobie's on fire. Like
Yeah.
I know Shadron plays good defense, and I expect this to be competitive. Shadron at home, it's gonna be a night game. I imagine they'll wear some cool jerseys and have the fans out. I think it'll be, they haven't got to play at home yet, so they'll be excited. But I think I think Black Hills is just. I think they're on another level right now with what I've seen through the first 2 weeks. They've played two teams that looking at it early, I mean, Grand Valley's most likely going to be in the playoffs, but I think Sioux Falls is a playoff caliber team, and they play both of them to the wire. I think Black Hills is if Doobie is playing to this level, I don't really see Shadron being enough. Like even if Shadron holds Black Hills to 18-20, Black Hills defense is looking pretty good after last. Like, I mean, they got passed on, but I think them shutting down the run, I think that bodes well. I think they can get pressure on DJ Ralph, and I'm going to go with Black Hills. I think Black Hills wins, and I think they win by at least 10 points, to be honest.
Yeah, I like that call as well. I think both these teams are well-coached, good, solid football teams. Jay Long always has well-coached teams there at Shadron. I feel the same way about Coach Bresky. That's solid, well-played football. But I think Black Hills just has more weapons at the moment. And the way TJ Chikura has been playing, the way that Luke Doobie's been playing, and you just have to, I think, like we said, there's got to be some confidence for a guy like Luke Doobie coming off of that game in that environment, going out, balling out like that has got to be some type of a propelling game, a propelling moment for those guys. So I like Black Hill State as well.
Yep. Once they get a taste of that country kitchen over there, it's over. They're going to take off. It's going to be 48-0. I mean, it's going to be a good game, but I mean, Black Hills has everything that you should be saying you're 2-0. I mean, really, if you don't play the two teams they've done everything to where this is a good team. If Shadron wants a shot, their defense has got to show up this week like they did the first week. Offense got to be able to put the points up like you kind of been doing, and can't struggle in the red zone like they have in the past.
I'm going to say this. If Shadron were to somehow win this game, I think it's going to take at least one. It's going to take a defensive score. They're going to score a touchdown on defense. If they can score a touchdown on defense, maybe a pick six early in the game or something, Shadron might be cooking. But before we go on, I was so excited to just get it. I was so the Hayes and Pueblo game was so big that I almost forgot, and there's no way I can forget. Let's talk about some of the best players in the conference this past week and highlight these guys. We were talking about them during the breakdowns. Jeffrey Jones, Offensive Player of the Week, D2Football.com National Offensive Player of the Week. This guy's a true freshman. He's about 5'7". He's leading the country in rushing, ladies and gentlemen. 608 yards through 2 games. I want to say like 7 touchdowns. Miles pointed it out. If you haven't had a chance, go back and watch that Highlands game. He makes one of the best catches I've seen so far this year in D2. One-handed on the sideline. The dude's amazing. What do you guys think about him and just the impact he's having? How crazy is it that Coach Kurt got Tavita last year and now has this guy this year? Is this his specialty, recruiting running backs? Is this what we can expect from Highlands moving forward, to just have a dog running back regardless?
I mean, I'm just excited to watch this kid play some more ball. I mean, I think now that he's turned all the heads, and that's obviously where things can get a little bit more difficult as well, right? Once you put on a couple of those performances, all right, let's see what you got now. But yeah, I mean, boy, is it exciting to watch those guys develop. And there's something about the purple as well. It's just a sweet, fancy looking, fast color. I feel like out there. So love watching Jeffrey Jones and those running backs do their thing.
Did you guys like the black jerseys?
Yeah, I thought they were fire. This is the first time where we've seen Highlands wearing the same purple helmets. I mean, in the past, they've had different random colors. They finally look like a team, and they're playing like a team. That's the best thing about it. But Jeffrey Jones is a dog, man.
And then we got Jordan Thomas, Jeffrey Jones, and then Jordan Thomas on the defensive end for the Skyhawks. Like we said, Skyhawks had I think they gave Thomas the award and not Jacob, just because Thomas had the INT, and I think it came with Arizona Christian driving. But overall, their defense did great. This is the shining star. And then last but definitely not least, Miles, you already said Blake Dowd, who? Pretty crazy. Shout out to Coach Groner over there, Scott, doing his thing for real. Putting up quite a bit of a resume with the guys that he's coached up and put out for the Ore Diggers. But shout out to those guys
too, by the way, right?
Yeah, Ella the pup. If you guys aren't familiar, she has an Instagram. You guys should go follow her.
She's famous.
It's all the Mines stuff. Did you guys see that Mines? I should have clipped that. The new helmet decal with the firecracker. Oh my gosh, I can't wait to see it this weekend. But obviously, if you guys are Mines is playing this weekend, Miles will be on the call. He's the voice of the Ore Diggers. He's I think the best in the Armac at what he does. So watch the game. If you can't make it out to Golden, definitely watch it. Draper, I'm sure you'll be watching games all weekend. I'm probably gonna head down to Golden myself. So if you guys see me and I say hi, come talk to me, tell me if you like my takes. Give me crap if I'm wrong, but yeah, if you I'll take it all. I can handle it. But another week. Thank you for joining us, Miles. We're hoping
Thanks for having me, boys.
Hey, we'll have you again for sure. These games get ramped up. But I think that's all for us tonight. And everybody enjoy their football. Hug your family members tonight. And it's a tough day in the country. So I don't know what more to say. But you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys next week.